right, it is No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I'm your host, Rick Becker, co-host, back in the seat, Lori Hintz.
Glad to be back.
Welcome back.
Not necessarily with the weather, but I'm glad to be back.
You were down in sunny TX?
Yeah, South Texas, and it was nice and warm down there for a change, so that was good. The last time I went was in January, and it was so cold, and I'm like, come on! So it was great. It was very fun.
That's good.
Yep.
So we've got an interesting guest on tonight. I'm looking forward to speaking with him. And our usual stuff. Segment one, what I want to cover is something to do with the employees, Aetna employees. We have several Aetna employees in the state. And as far as I can gather, somewhere close to 500.
Wow, that's a lot.
Right. Now, Aetna is under CVS Health because there was, I think it was Caremark and CVS merged and what have you. Anyway, CVS Health has over 300,000 employees worldwide.
Uh-oh.
But
I see where this is
but
going
they own
already.
Aetna. So I have had literally several Aetna employees contact me because apparently CVS is pushing forth this vaccine mandate. And I believe that they're just pushing it forth on a national level, not making it specific to the state, because North Dakota, of course, has that new law in place.
Right.
And so it sounds like, and they're being very pushy, Aetna employees must be vaccinated or they will be terminated by the end of March.
Oh, wow.
Specifically terminated.
They
So
literally say we're going to fire you.
Yep. So I want to go over, there is a document I have. It was supposed to be in-house only. And it is, they have it labeled Final Vaccine Mandate FAQ Phase 2. So pull up our first page of that FAQ sheet. So this is directly from CVS Health. And it's a full expanded explanation of why they're doing it, what the ramifications are, so on and so forth. A couple of highlights within this document I want to point out. It says here, colleagues in this phase must be fully vaccinated or have an approved reasonable accommodation by March 31st, 2022, unless prohibited by state or local law. Now, this is the part I want all of the employees of Aetna to understand.
Right. Unless
prohibited by state law. And we have a state law. And so I understand that they're not telling you that part. What you're hearing from your supervisors, at least what I'm being told, is simply you must be vaccinated. And you must be vaccinated by March 31st, or you must have a reasonable accommodation. What they indicate in their reasonable accommodation is the typical religious or medical exemption, which are nearly impossible to get.
Right.
And then we also have dates. What are the dates I need to know to be compliant? It says in this document, January 31st is the deadline to apply for a reasonable accommodation. This is also important for the employees who are going to ask for an exemption to understand. North Dakota is going to, we're going to go into this just a bit, North Dakota will allow you to ask for an exemption, and you certainly should send that notification in before January 31st. And again, March 31st, fully vaccinated or have your reasonable accommodation approved.
Now, their reasonable accommodation is not the same as our state's reasonable
Correct.
accommodation.
And that's why we have to, in the background, it says, again, unless there's state law. And so you kind of have to work with their document, with their rules, but in the background you understand that there's this special aspect to it that North Dakota has.
Right.
It says here, one of the questions in their frequently asked questions, is my employment with CVS Health dependent on getting the vaccine? The answer is yes. Colleagues who have not been granted a reasonable accommodation or are not fully vaccinated by the end of March will be terminated from employment with CVS Health. This includes Aetna. Unless prohibited by law, employers have a legal right to mandate the COVID-19 vaccine as a condition of employment. Again, ladies and gentlemen, employed by Aetna and CVS Health, it says unless prohibited by law.
Right.
And last question or last notation I have here for this, well, there are a couple more. In this frequently asked questions, it also goes on to say colleagues who are approved for a reasonable accommodation and are required to work on-site or an in-office location or meet with client, customer in person will be required to be tested for COVID-19 regularly and wear either a KN95 or a fitted N95 mask, depending on their role. So again, a note to Aetna employees, you can get out of this very easily, but they do reserve the right, and it is within North Dakota law that they can require you to be tested and wear a mask. And
Does it say who pays for the tests, however? Is this the
this
the individual?
does not.
Now, see,
This
it
does
doesn't
not.
say that, but I bet you it's the individual
Nope.
because they have to be as onerous as possible.
Right. So the one thing there that I also want folks to know is that if you don't have the vaccine, they can require you to wear the N95 mask. Even if you are vaccinated and you're working with patients and so forth, you still have to wear some kind of mask. So it's simply a step up to the N95 if you're not vaccinated. So again, the big push is get vaccinated or get fired. That's what you're hearing from Aetna. That's what you're hearing from CVS Health. It is not true because North Dakota law does allow you to have an exemption, and it takes nothing to do. We're going to go over that in just a second. The other thing that is important to know, though, is that there could be an exemption for the North Dakota law, meaning you would have to follow this if, because they have more than 100 employees, there's that Biden executive order that says all employers with over 100 employees can require it, or should need to require it. Now, that's not going to ever be upheld by the court, but I just want you to know, right now, if it was not stopped, which it is, if it was not stopped by the court, you would have to do it despite North Dakota law. And then there's the OSHA one, the CVS Health employees would fall under OSHA. That, again, that's stopped by the court.
There's a stay on that.
But if it is allowed to go through, then the CVS Health employees would probably fall under that. The Aetna employees, those that are at home and making phone calls and they're not with patient contact and they're just all by themselves working remotely, they would not fall under OSHA, even if the OSHA mandate is upheld, the executive order is upheld by the court.
Because they're off-site.
They're off-site 100%. So that's a little nugget within the CMS EO mandate. And so anyway, as it stands now, you're good because all of Biden's executive orders are in sort of a stay or in a holding pattern. They're not being upheld. They're not being implemented. The last thing I have on this is the North Dakota law. Pull that up, gentlemen. And here we have, this comes with from the North Dakota Century Code. It is part of law now. The pertinent point here I have is that the employer or contractor shall allow the employee, prospective employer, or independent contractor to submit one of the following certificates as an exemption to the vaccination requirement. Number one, which we don't have up there, is your usual religious or medical exemption. But number two is the key point here. A certificate signed by the employee, prospective employee, or independent contractor stating the employee's prospective employees or independent contractors' religious, philosophical, or moral beliefs are opposed to such immunization.
I'm wondering if you need a lawyer. I mean, seriously, at this point, because if they are pushing this on you and you know that you are in the right, do you threaten legal?
No, here's what I think. Here's what everyone should do if you're working for Aetna and you don't want to be vaccinated, or you're working for CVS Health. You send in a certificate. Basically, just print up a little document that says, I
am
and your name
philosophically
and morally opposed to receiving the COVID-19 vaccination, signed, your name and the date.
Done.
You send it in, and that's it. Nothing more happens. You wait for them to fire you, which they won't, because they have people that know what North Dakota law is, and if they try, then you find a lawyer. The lawyer will be happy to take the case because Aetna will lose if they do that.
Yep.
This is all you have to do, folks. Aetna, people,
remain calm.
Remain calm. Stay calm. Send in your little one-page document, and that's the end of the story. So that's good news.
Great news.